Hello, welcome to day 70. Second apology this year. I forgot last night. I actually forgot. I I was on call for work in the evening, and yeah, literally, we had a pretty eventful evening, and I forgot. Literally, just forgot. So apologies. Um, but we're here today, and we've caught up. We've caught up on everything. So let's jump in, shall we? And let's let's do this. Um, I'm gonna have to do this in chapters because I yeah. Alright. So we are actually this is Deutronomy 1 and 2. I'm gonna go ahead and mark it red. I think this is going to be okay. Okay, yes, yes. So I've just read everything. I've sort of caught up. So let's quickly go back to 35. Yeah, so this is yesterday's reading, and it's more of just yeah, Moses sort of uh, establishing these where the Levites will live and their pasture lands, and has noted, the towns will be given to them from all of the various tribes because the Levites don't have a tribe of their own because they are ransomed by God. They are God's people, so they don't have their own tribes. But each of the towns will have to give them tribes, and we're seeing this characteristic again of God where there's I forget the word. It's a buzzword nowadays. Equity, not quite equality, but basically, even the distribution of towns by the various tribes is proportional to the size of the tribe and to the land that they've received, so that bigger tribes with bigger land give more towns, tribes with smaller land give less towns, and there is that sort of balance throughout the society of Israel. Um, and then there's this really interesting concept of the cities of refuge, which will allow, specifically here, someone that accidentally kills another to flee to this place so that they can be safe until the high priest, until the current high priest dies. And again, this is it's sort of covering various things, right? Because in doing that, they define murder. If someone strikes someone with his hand with a stone um, that he didn't like, it's murder, and the penalty for murder is death. But then, if someone drops a stone on someone or accidentally pushes someone and they die, then it's an accidental thing, um, and it's not considered murder. Uh, and if that should happen, there's this person called the Avenger, and the Avenger is the um, victim's nearest relative who is responsible to actually kill the murderer of the victim or the victim. But that person can't kill someone who's run to a city of refuge. So there's this whole sort of self-policing system that's being put in place. That's really cool. There wasn't a need. There's a need for a priesthood, but there wasn't a need for a police force. Hmm. Interesting. Um, I'm not gonna get political there. But yeah, that's Numbers 35, and then Numbers 36 is so um, God just giving some extra sort of caveats maybe to the daughters of Zelophehad yes, that inherited land because their father had no sons, and the sort of caveats, the you know the restrictions that were put on were And as much as the daughters receive the land, if the daughters are to marry someone from another tribe, that land then goes to that tribe. And then you have a break where some tribes can start to lose land by marriage if if their daughters are being given land but are marrying out. And to accommodate this, those daughters that are given land are required to marry from within their tribe. And all of them do. And thus that land never leaves their tribe, and everyone remains with the land that they are allotted, which is, again, it makes sense, right? It preserves this idea of everyone gets to keep what they're given, and they don't have to lose it or trade or whatever. So that's how Numbers ends. That's Numbers 36, and today was Deuteronomy chapter 1 and 2. Now, as I use the introductions to the Bible that Blue Letter Bible suggests, that offers, to sort of do a quick sort of introduction to the book of Deuteronomy. And it is effectively, it is pretty much a bunch of sermons just as Moses is about to die. So if I pull it up here, um, he starts with, and this is Genesis, Deuteronomy 1, um, starts with a bit of, or this is actually Deuteronomy 1 and 2, is effectively a bit of history, a bit of history of Israel, where they came from, all the way from Egypt up until, where they are now, and it really lays it out nicely so that you can really see what happened in that when they left, um, Egypt, they went to Mount Sinai, which was the whole plan. Um, and then from there, it should have taken them 11 days or it took them 11 days to get to Kadesh Barnea, where they were to, go and take the land, as it were. I'm probably getting bits of that wrong. I know they had to do that from Kadesh Barnea. But Deuteronomy lays out, the first first 4 chapters lays out a history, and then we go into a some breakdowns of the laws, right, of the covenants, um, and then Moses goes into blessings and curses, and lastly ends with sort of an exhortation. And Deuteronomy ends in about 34 chapters with the selection of a new leader. So that's where we are in the book of Deuteronomy. And if I had sort of started going into it a little bit, Deuteronomy 1 starts with a bit of history for Israel. So that 11 days from Mount Sinai to when they were to go and take the land, it's all cool. But Deuteronomy breaks down what actually happened, in that um, he's he talks about how he selected leaders from each tribe, sort of broke down the chain of command to handle what were a super, super, super unmanageable number of people. We're selecting judges from the wisest of each tribe. Uh, and then, yes, it was at Kadesh Barnea that they were told to go and occupy the land. And it's quite interesting because it's it's described in Deuteronomy 1:21 that's on the screen now, that it was almost like, all right, you're here, go and take the land, and don't be afraid, don't be discouraged. And if they had just gone, right, this really reminds me of something that happened actually just today. So my mom-in-law is here, the kid's grandmother, and Zachary is showing so much growth anyway at just about just under 2 years. He's he's pulling grandma back to come and sit down so they can play and talk and all of that. But we put him in his high chair, and grandma's sort of sitting next to him, and he's been in the high chair for a few minutes. He's ready to get down. You know, like, get down. Release him. He's about to get down. He stands up, stands on the high chair, and as far as he's concerned, he's just about to jump like Superman jump into grandma's arms, right? No concern whatsoever with whether or not grandma is capable of catching you and your, you know, 15 kilograms of flailing arms and legs and head. He just jumped. Now luckily we were holding him, so it's just a matter of, holding him and guiding him down. But as he did that, I was just looking at him like, that's faith, right? No requirement for proof that grandma can catch him. No concern with whether or not grandma is ready to catch him. Just a confident expectation that he's going to jump out of the time of his life flying through the air and grandma's going to catch him. And if Israel did that, when God first said, and really, it wasn't presented as this, it wasn't like, oh, God said, go and occupy. And then the people came back and said, let's send out scouts first, because that's what ended up happening. But if you have to go by Deuteronomy's description, and in fairness, I feel Moses is a bit of as is the literary style probably. He might be not embellishing, but recalling things a bit more favorably to himself than otherwise. And I'll speak as to why I said that. But, it's God said go, and they said, let's send out scouts first. Let's go and get some proof that something, scouts who and determine something about this land, best route to take, which towns to enter. Let us contribute to what God is doing by doing this, sending scouts. And Moses concedes. He thought it was a good idea. So he sends out 12 scouts. But what do? They come back with the reality. They come back with news of how big the people are, how dangerous the people are, how little they are in comparison. They confirm that the land is good, but they come back with news that demoralizes the entire society. And not only that, causes them to again grumble against the Lord. If they had done like Zachary and just jumped, it would be a completely different story. Because it was God that was going to do it for them. But when they sought to contribute something to the process, to do again what seemed like the pragmatic thing to do, right? Go and scout out the thing you're going to siege. Yeah, makes sense. But we're dealing with a God that doesn't need to make sense. Oh, we're following a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Because that makes sense. There's a cloud that comes over the tabernacle, but that hadn't happened by then. But a God that had judged each of the gods of Egypt with plague after plague after plague, not occurring randomly, but occurring after the announcement of Moses that this is going to happen. Anyway, so Moses sort of talks through how when they grumbled against the Lord, he was like, okay, cool, turn around, you guys go back into the wilderness. None of those fighting age among you now are going to make it. The children that you claim to be worried about, them making it in, they're the ones that are going to occupy the land. So take them on this wild journey for 40 years until such a point in time that they're now about to. But the reason I said that Moses was maybe remembering things somewhat favorably to himself was, when they were complaining and the Lord said that He would destroy them. In 137, Moses recalls it as such, and the Lord was angry with me, would also be angry with me because of you. He said to me, Moses, not even you will enter the promised land. Which is fair, that's what God said, but that wasn't particularly why he was angry with Moses. He was angry with Moses because Moses didn't honor him in front of the people. Moses being a leader, should be held to a different standard. Now, this makes it sound as though it was entirely the people's fault, which you can argue is the case because he was frustrated because of the people. But yeah, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. It recalls how Israel, once they had seen that they made the Lord angry, somewhat repented, but again rebelled because they were just going to attack without the Lord now. And the Lord said they shouldn't, they were going to do it anyway. So, they did. They got beaten because the Lord was not with them, and they stayed at Kadesh. And ultimately, in Deutronomy 2, we start to Moses recalls some of the travels that they've done. You know, some of the towns that they had to go through, and he points out the Edomites who were their cousins pretty much because they descended from Esau, whereas Israel descended from Jacob. In the land of Moab, they are able to go through, but the kings that challenge them come out, and God destroys. Not them, but God. And it sort of ends there in chapter 2, where there's this recount of some of the wars that God has won on behalf of the people. So that is pretty much it for Deuteronomy 1 and 2, and the last two chapters of Numbers, where I will be here. And tomorrow's verses are Deuteronomy 3 and 4. So, God willing, I'll be here and we can go through that as well. All right.